Merrick Garland on the hot seat. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Robert. Attorney General Merrick Garland has definitely placed himself on the hot seat. None of his predecessors in office have ever done anything that can compare to what he did. Although John Mitchell, during the Nixon administration, came close. His latest gambit now has even his boss disavowing him and other prominent Democrats barely managing a kind word. We're going to talk about that and about how he has even split the mainstream media over his laying on of the Trump raid. Before we dive into that, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views, link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which reads, "Do not bear false witness." There's been a lot of that lately from Merrick Garland and from his many apologists. But now some people are starting to call him on it. The Washington Post tried to portray Merrick Garland as a good public servant who triggered a political firestorm. They even said that he had pledged to depoliticize the Department of Justice. Well, that might have been impossible on its face. But the Trump raid is merely the latest in a series of overtly political actions this Attorney General has taken. The Post is silent about that. All they want to talk about is big bad Trump, as in who's afraid of, and how Merrick Garland succumbed to pressure to do something now, today, this instant. The New Yorker put out a disgusting screen, and I'm not going to waste but so much of my breath on it. Silence is not an option, they say. Now, of course, they're talking about his habit of giving the typical prosecutor's answer, "I don't comment on pending cases," or some other variation on that theme. Essentially, the New Yorker is saying that he has a tiger by the tail, and in career terms, it's do or die. The Tennessean from Nashville, Tennessee, the printed a column that, unlike these other two, takes Merrick Garland somewhat to task. Columnist Cameron Smith simply refuses to believe that Title 18 United States Code Section 2071 was all there was to it. No matter what Marc, let's see, how do you pronounce his name? Elias, well, I'll go with the second one. That's the one I keep hearing. Anyway, I have a link in the description to Marc Elias' rather breathless tweet about how Title 18 United States Code Section 2071, the one having to do with document handling, is a big blockbuster. Well, Cameron Smith begs to differ. He says a document mishandling case will not justify the Trump raid in the public's mind, particularly since Garland's Democratic predecessors pursued then-candidate Trump on a basis they knew or should have known was false. The New York Post went further yesterday. To hear them tell it, if Merrick Garland doesn't talk fast about why he laid on the Trump raid, he just re-elected Trump. In contrast, Jennifer Taub at Slate just gushed over the FBI. Rah, 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 give me an F. F, give me a B. B, give me a D. And I. Put them together and what do you got? FBI! Oh, wouldn't you want to throw up? Newsflash, this is not Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.'s FBI. But don't tell Jennifer Taub that. To her, whether anything like this has ever happened before, the country needed to make it happen. You have to wonder how she would feel if it happened to Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, or how she might feel if it happens in future to Hunter Biden or his father. This illustrates the worst part of the American political divide. On the other side, some people are such monsters that they are no longer deserve the protections of the Constitution. Now, when they say things like that, they're really saying that we, who love our freedom, are the monsters. Mark Weaver writing in Newsweek as ex-Justice Department spokesman, is not so ready to throw caution to the winds. For one thing, he says that even to say that the FBI was looking for mishandled documents was illegal. And yesterday, CNN had quoted 3 Messrs. Piffwits, that's persons familiar with the situation, by the way, with that leak. Second, partisanship has so colored the investigation that Merrick Garland can do only one thing. To save the credibility of his office and department, he must appoint a special prosecutor. Sorry, Councilor Weaver, but a special prosecutor won't serve this time. Who's going to nominate him but Biden, whom Weaver admits is the least popular president in generations? Generations nothing, history is more like it. And what kind of Senate is going to confirm him but a 50-50 Senate with a cackling maniac casting the tie-breaking vote? The motives of Merrick Garland appear to be legion. Mr. Weaver, for instance, reminds us that the Senate Republican Conference did Merrick Garland out of a Supreme Court seat, or so Garland would see it, and that would give him a motive for petty revenge. Andrew McCarthy, writing in the New York Post, doesn't buy the Title 18 United States Code Section 2071 explanation. To the Marc Eliases who say that this is how Garland was going to disqualify Trump from running again, McCarthy says, and I quote, "I doubt that. The Justice Department well knows that the qualifications for a presidential candidate are set out in the Constitution. They may not be altered by statute, precisely because the framers did not want the executive branch to be dominated by the legislature, as would happen if Congress could disqualify an incumbent or potential president simply by passing a law. The Constitution's qualifications for the presidency are minimal. One must be over 35 and a natural-born citizen. Being a felon is not a disqualification, so even crimes potentially far more serious than mishandling classified information are not a bar to seeking the presidency." McCarthy goes on to say that the only way to disqualify a president, vice president, or civil officer from serving again is through impeachment. Well, the Democrats had that chance and they blew it. Now, I'm going to take a break from Andrew McCarthy's column to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you weather the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, the employment issues, unexpected life changes have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets of creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. And whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities that this company provides, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Now, McCarthy says that the FBI were fishing for tasty ones relating to the January 6th event. Well, that would include a showing that Donald Trump knew that the election of 2020 was fair, the most secure in history, all the things the apologists for that election have said and keep saying. And in the face of what the Democrats call absolute fact, Trump tried anyway to subvert the Congress counting authority. That, says McCarthy, explains other warrants targeting those closest to Trump, and it explains the raid. But when he says that, McCarthy makes the conduct of Merrick Garland worse. We have we hear secondhand that a warrant exists. Apparently, the agent leading the raid showed it to one of Trump's attorneys and then took it back. They did not leave a copy. We keep hearing that a federal judge issued it. Come on. Who? 2 candidates exist. But for any warrants that they did in fact issue, they sealed the supporting documents. So we don't even know that any of these is the warrant. So how do we know that Merrick Garland didn't just draw up a warrant on his own? And if what that agent showed to Trump's lawyer didn't mention the January 6th event, and since Trump turned those National Archives boxes back over to them back in January, well, what did they take and why did they take it? How, in short, do we know that Merrick Garland did not simply draw up a writ of assistance, letting the FBI seize anything and everything they might think could nail Trump? All right, head scratch alert. I heard that. Writ of what? A writ of assistance is a general search warrant that does not specify the place or object of search. In colonial days, King Charles II used them extensively. The first challenge to them came from Mr. James Otis in the Superior Court of Massachusetts in February 1761. The Constitution makes writs of assistance illegal and unconstitutional. And that's why we have a 4th Amendment, which sets forth 3 requirements for any search or arrest warrant. They are probable cause, support by oath or affirmation, and particular description of the place and object of search. Every civil or military officer or military enlistee of the United States swears an oath to, and I quote, support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, close quote. I swore that oath as a House officer at the Nashville Veterans Administration Medical Center, and I swore it again when I did the census in the year 2000 in southern New Jersey. Merrick Garland has breached the Constitution in several ways. First, given that Trump was cooperating with the National Archives, Merrick Garland did not have probable cause to seek any warrant at all. Second, again, we don't know whether any federal magistrate judge has seen anything to establish probable cause. The allegation that Bruce Reinhardt, former staff counsel for Jeffrey Epstein, is that federal judge does not convince me. Judicial Watch seems to think that a magistrate judge in southern Florida did issue a search warrant. So they have filed a motion to unseal it. Furthermore, if Andrew McCarthy is even half correct, that warrant, if it is one, violates the particular description clause. Courts routinely exclude evidence that police seize that does not appear in a warrant as an object of search. This exclusionary rule has blown up many a drug prosecution. It also formed the basis for a movie about frustrated judges taking the law into their own hands. Do any of you remember it? I do. The Star Chamber, directed by Peter Hyams, with Michael Douglas, Hal Holbrook, Yaphet Kotto, Sharon Gless, and many others. 20th Century Fox, 1983. And you have to wonder, did Merrick Garland turn the magistrate's part of the Southern District of Florida into a star chamber? Or again, did he just ignore them? Also, as Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida pointed out yesterday, and I have a link in the description, we see from Merrick Garland inconsistent application of the law. Trump gets the treatment he got and Hunter Biden skates. Although I would have used Hillary as the example of somebody skating as Trump did. Finally, Representative Scott Perry of the 10th District of Pennsylvania reports that 3 FBI agents accosted him and seized his cell phone without a warrant. His colleague Lauren Boebert from the 3rd District of Colorado says that this happened after he filed articles of impeachment against Merrick Garland. I have a link in the description to her tweet on that very subject. Now listen carefully. I have mainly repeated various allegations, testimonials, and opinions from other people. But besides that, I did draw one conclusion that others have not drawn from the available evidence. Specifically, I suspect Merrick Garland did not go to a federal judge for any warrant for the Trump raid. I remind you of Carter Page's experience with lacking or at least invalid warrants. Furthermore, Scott Perry has made a serious allegation against the FBI that the FBI will have to answer. And that allegation is of behavior consistent with raiding the Trump mansion on nothing more than a self-written writ of assistance. Now, if the Attorney General, the Director of the FBI, any official spokesperson for either man, or an officer of the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida, or anyone else who cares to claim any knowledge of this matter wishes to dispute the allegation or any other suggestion I have just made, let such person or persons leave a comment or comments. The comment space is always open, subject to my personal moderation to screen out obscene language, off-color images, spam. You get the idea. Furthermore, to any editorialists whom I have quoted here, if you believe that I have misrepresented your work or in any other way, shape, or form treated you unfairly, leave a comment. That goes for any big name I've just dropped. Now, if you do leave a comment, I will make some reply. But you have to remember, oh come now, you know what I'm going to say. If you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. Link in the description of the article to tweets by Marc Elias, Ron DeSantis, and Lauren Boebert, and to conservative news and views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and ourcivilines.com, as I also mentioned. And if you like what you've heard, you can like this video. And on the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link and definitely a link to yesterday's video about the Trump raid. This is Terry A. Hroba delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.